Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna and welcome to all the devotees online. Thank you very much for your kind association as we continue reading Srimad Bhagavatam, associating with Bhaktivedanta purports and Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 2, Chapter 5, verses 36 to 42, causes of all causes. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shruta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopeka Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Pre Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Ti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharina Nirvishesa Sunyavari Pastatyadi Satavine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sarva Shastra Puyusha Sarva Vedeka Satphala Sarva Siddhantaratnadya Sarva Lokai Prada Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavato Prabhu Kalidvando Didaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churn from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, O most prominent transcendent food of all the Vedas, O you enrich with jewels of all spiritual philosophical conclusions, O you who grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world, O life breath of the Vaishnava devotees, O Lord, you are the sun which has arisen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. Your actual Lord Krishna who is returned amongst us. Paramananda Pathaya Premavarshasharayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, offer my respectful obeisance. By reading you unattains transcendental bliss. For your syllabus rain pure love of God upon the reader. You are always to be served by everyone, for you are incarnation of Lord Krishna. Madekabandhu Mad Sangim Mad Guru Mad Mahadana Mad Nishtaraka Mad Bhagya Madananda Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, I offer my respectful obeisance to you. Asadu sadhu tadahi natti nichochatara kahana muncha kadachin mam premna ritkati aspura. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O give us saintliness to run saintly, who have loved the very fallen. Please do not ever leave me. Please become manifest Mahatma through the company of pure love of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadhyasya Yatonvayaritarata Charte Swabhigna Swara Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavaye Muyanti Yatsuraya Tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayo yatrati sargo mrisha damna swena sada nirastakvakam satyam param dhimaihi. O my Lord, Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O pervading personality of Godhead, offer my respectful obeisance unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primary cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and is independent because there is not the cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original loving being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion as one is bewildered by the illusory representation of what is seen in fire, land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from illusory representation of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Prayanaupayasha sabya kalavasmin yuge jana manda sumanda matayo manda bhagyo padrita. O learned one, in the signage of Kali many but short lives, the quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, and unlucky, and above all always disturbed. Narayana Maskritya Narachevam Narotamam Devim Sarasotim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance to the personality of God and Narayan. Unto Naran and Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, and the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasa, the author. Savai Pumsa Paro Dharmo Yatho Bhakti Radokshaya Haitukya Pratiyata Yatma Suprasiddhati. The supreme occupation dharma for all humanity is that by which man can attain to loving devotions unto the transcendental or such devotions must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayatyu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayad Haritakam. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires, possesses knowledge and detachment from the world. Vedanti tattva vidastatvam yat gnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabhyate. Learned transcendentals know the absolute truth, calls non-dual substance Brahman Paramatma Bhagavan. Shru Shru Shoshadadanasya Vasudeva Kata Ruchi Syan Mahatsya Vaya Vipra Punya Tirtha Nishevanat. O twice born sages, by serving those devotees are completely free from vice. All great service is done by such service. One gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Shranvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ryaddantastoya Bhadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire from material enjoyment. From the heart of the devotees develop the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtues when properly heard and chanted. Nasta prayashu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama sloke bhakti bhavati nashtikir. By regular attendance in the classes of Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, established as an irrevocable. Etavan Sankhya Yoga Byam Sodharmam Parinishtaya Janmalabha Parapum Samante Narayana Smriti. The highest perfection of human life achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, of perfect discharge of occupational duties to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life. Vakama sarvakama va mokshakama udhariri tivrena bhakti yogena yajade purusham param. A person who has brought to intelligence, whether he be full of all material desires, without any material desires, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the supreme whole, the personality of Godhead. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are continuing Srimad Bhagavatam based on the teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Hare Krishna and welcome back. Let us recap anything that touched your heart, anything you remembered, anything that caught your attention from the last section of verses 26 to 35. Please type that in the chat. All right. Hemavati and Nalini Kanta Prabhu says, everything you so nicely explained about eating the sweet ball. So we gave the example of eating the sweet ball. And we need to keep that in mind because we use the term, I ate the sweet ball. But no, you did not eat the sweet ball. The sweet ball was eaten by your body. And your body ate the sweet ball, yet because of ahankar, false ego, attachment to the body, you are claiming that you have eaten the sweet. So this is the illusion, this is the challenge that we are faced with. This is the plague. This is the real disease. All other diseases that have appeared in this world, that will appear in this world, are all temporary and irrelevant in relation to this specific disease of false identification with this body. So, yes, we enjoying the sweet ball when it's offered to Krishna, but even that enjoyment is all related to the body. If you really start going into this idea and just try to understand how, what a network of illusion we are trapped in. When you eat the sweet ball, all that happens is the senses pick up the taste of that sweet ball. And together with your mind and brain, it stimulates certain hormones and experiences that have been connected to that sweet ball from memory from your chitta, and in this way creates an illusion of happiness, which you, as the soul, who have absolutely nothing to do with that sweet ball besides the desire to enjoy. And one is thinking, I ate the sweet ball and I'm enjoying the sweet ball. I digest the sweet ball, but the sweet ball was very nice. I need more sweet balls. And in this way, we become trapped. Two, human civilization is meant for purifying the senses, and objects of sense satisfaction should be supplied as much as absolutely required, but not for aggravating artificial sensory needs. So in this statement that Hemavati Radhika has posted, which Srila Prabhupada mentions, you can see the last three words: artificial sensory needs. So that means you eating the sweet ball and thinking you eating it's totally artificial. And what is it all about? It's basically about sensory needs. That's all. It's just fulfilling the senses' desires. So in one sense, who is desiring more the sweet ball is your eyes, your tongue, the senses connected to your mind. It's the mind that's really desiring. In this way, artificial sense gratification is going on. But we also mentioned, does that mean because we are not really enjoying or eating the sweet ball, we should stop eating? Prabhupada says no. One needs to satisfy the senses, not overly satisfy, but just satisfy the senses as absolutely required. And in this way, we don't aggravate the situation. We satisfy the needs of the senses and slowly manage that while we engage in the true activity of devotional service to purify our senses so that we can come out of this illusion. One day, we will be self-realized. We will be out of this body. We will have our true form, and then we'll be able to take a sweet ball that Krishna bit into and enjoy. We can consider another aspect. Similar to this point, chanting Hare Krishna. We may say, well, I'm chanting Hare Krishna, but no, you're not chanting Hare Krishna. You're not even holding the beads. You're not even vibrating the holy name. But that process of getting the body to be engaged in chanting, getting the tongue engaged in chanting, getting the mind engaged in chanting, and getting your desires aligned to becoming attached to chanting the holy name, that is the process of liberating you out of your body and bodily senses engaged in service to Krishna, to you actually getting engaged in serving Krishna. So one day, when we become free from the bodily concept of life, then you will actually be holding a bead bag and chanting. And then we mentioned Prabhupada said three things are important: health, sadhana, and service, and in that order. So we should never neglect our health. Shamananda Prabhu says, we thank Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada, and you and Mataji for reminding us and explaining that everything is created via sound, and that we can reverse the creation process via sound as well. Liberation by sound by the chanting of the Mahamantra, the great chant for deliverance. Yes, we have to constantly remind ourselves that we are bound, and just as creation is created by sound, we can liberate ourselves through the power of sound. Prabhupada says in the 29th verse of this 5th chapter we covered last week, mental diseases result from special dearrangement of air within the body, and as such, yogic exercise is especially beneficial to keep the air in order so that diseases of the body become almost nil by such exercises. When they are properly done, the duration of life also increases, and one can have control over death also by such practices. A perfect yogi can have command over death and quit the body at the right moment when he is competent to transfer himself to a suitable planet. The Bhakti Yogi, however, surpasses all other yogis because by dint of his devotional service, he is promoted to the region beyond the material sky and is placed in one of the planets in the spiritual sky by the supreme will of the Lord, the controller of everything. So by dint of devotional service, by dint of Bhakti Yoga, you are transferred. That's when you can actually engage in devotional service. It's interesting in Nectar Devotion, Srila Rupa Goswami also makes this point, that you actually only begin devotional service, pure devotional service, after liberation. Somebody said, but I'm engaging in devotional service. Real devotional service really starts on the other side of the fence. Right now, we are trying to purify our life. Right now, we are trying to become free from all the unwanted desires, the narratives. We're trying to overcome all the challenges and obstacles that are faced, that we face with in this material world. Lust, anger, greed, jealousy, envy, madness, illusion, plagued with three modes of material nature. So we're striving to become completely free, striving to purify our heart completely. Cheto Darpanam Arjanam. The chitta, Cheto Darpanam, the chitta contains all the past baggage. Every thing that we have eaten is recorded. Everything that we have consumed is recorded. So we have consumed many things through our mouth in different species. We also consume things with our eyes. We consume things with our ears. We consume things with our touch. We consume things with our nose. So in this way, we are consuming many things, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, and they all get imprinted on the chitta, get recorded in the chitta. So until that bank of chitta is not zeroed, not purified, it may surface and it may breed different desires that entrap us. So therefore, the first installment of chanting the holy names of Krishna is Cheto Darpanam Marjanam, cleansing, desire of the heart, cleansing the heart, purifying the heart. Or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives the example of Cheto Darpanam Marjanam, the window or the mirror. If the mirror is dusty, you cannot see yourself. So as long as the heart is dusty, we cannot see ourselves. Therefore, the process of chanting. Here Prabhupada is talking about mental diseases, the arrangement of air. It's interesting, right now in the world, number one disease in the world is mental disease. It's amazing that we have the greatest technology ever. We have, in every aspect of life, advance by bounds and leaps. But yet, the greatest disease that people are inflicted with is mental diseases. And that's why chanting the holy names, especially the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is a very powerful means to become free from mental illness. So we are going to complete the last section, 36 to 42, description of the Virat Rupa. So now we are coming to the concluding end of creation. So just to recap, Lord Brahma is describing to Narad Muni how creation really begins and that he is simply a secondary creator. primary creator is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And Krishna expends himself in the form of Mahavishnu to basically facilitate this pastime. This is a pastime of Mahavishnu. And we are all part of this pastime to give him pleasure. At the same time, to give us the facility and the opportunity to continue to purify our impressions or samskars so that we can take part in his pastimes. Ultimately, the Lord is using or creating the material world as a stage for his pastimes, but at the same time, facilitating our desire to lord it over material nature. So it's our playground also. And by the mercy of the pure devotees, we can realize that actually I need to stop playing with these toys, Krishna's energies. I need to surrender. So the Lord glances at Pradhan and activates the material energy. The living entities that were in the previous destruction merged into Mahavishnu's body come out with their karma and swabhava, your nature and your activities. So we can see the continuum. Your karma does not get nullified and your nature does not get nullified. At the time of destruction, whatever karma you have and whatever nature you have, basically merge with that, and you start when creation is started again, you continue from where you left off. So like that, spiritual life is also a continuum. Then the pradhan is activated, and systematically each of the elements begin to unfold. Pradhan, with the agitation of the glands, Kala Shakti of Mahavishnu transforms into Mahatattva, in mode of goodness. Then Sutra Tattva, that Mahatattva transformed further into Sutra Tattva with mode of passion. Then Ahankar is manifested. Ahankar in the three modes is manifested. Each of the modes with Ahankar manifest different aspects of creation. So we get Ahankar in mode of goodness, manifesting in Jnana Shakti, the mind and the 10 sense demigods. Then passion, Ahankar in the mode of passion, manifesting the Kriya Shakti, which then manifests prana, 10 senses intelligence. And then ignorance, manifesting the Dravya Shakti, 5 sense objects and the elements, or 5 elements. So in this way, creation systematically unfolds, unpacked. And then we know that first element is sound. From sound, ether is manifested, then touch, then air, then form, then fire, then taste, water, smell, earth. And we know that each successive element includes all the previous aspects of creation. So earth, which is the final element that's created, includes smell, taste, form, touch, sound. Fire only includes form, touch, and sound. Ether only includes sound. And here we see sound as the first aspect of creation. And therefore, everything in essence is a manifestation of sound, a permutation or variation of sound in just from different levels, from subtle to gross, all the elements. And therefore, from a scientific perspective, they talk about everything is vibration. Earth is vibration, water is vibration, fire is vibration, air is vibration, ether is vibration. Why? Because everything is produced from sound, and sound itself is a vibration. And in this way, therefore, even, for example, thoughts, thinking is a vibration. And everything that we expose ourselves in form of vibration impacts us. So we want to dissolve, reverse the process and ultimately become free. Then we started hearing about, from Mahavishnu's pores, egg-like shells, perspiration, bubbles of perspiration manifest, innumerable, multi-universe. It's amazing. Our universe is the smallest universe, 4 billion miles in diameter. Whereas there are other universes that are many, many, many times larger. So there are innumerable universes. And in each universe, material energy is incorporated. Mahavishnu then goes into each of the universes, which are just like golden shells. And there is no air conditioning. Therefore, no windows, no air conditioning. And Mahavishnu, therefore, as Garbhodaksai Vishnu perspires, fills half the ocean with, fills half the universe with water, which is called Garbha Ocean, lies on there, on the bed of Sheshanag, and then Lord Brahma is born, and secondary creation starts. So right now, Mahavishnu expands as Garbhodaksai Vishnu and lies on the causal ocean, and then the universal form manifests to then facilitate the rest of creation through Lord Brahma. So 36. Yasya havayer lokan kalpayanti manishina katyadivir ada sapta saptor davan jaghanadibi. Great philosophers imagine the complete planetary systems in the universe are displays of the different upper and lower limbs of the universal body of the Lord. So this last section is focusing on the universal form we already covered in the first chapter of the second canto. The first step of self-realization, the first step of spiritual life, where the Lord manifests in this imaginary form of the Virat Rupa simply to aid people progressing on the path of spiritual life. Because when you connect matter to God, then that matter, when you think of matter in relation to God, it purifies. So therefore, this aspect, this is where the Virat Rupa comes into the bigger picture. This is where it manifests. This is the feature of, facet of the Virat Rupa in terms of creation, where it manifests. The word kalpayanti, or imagine, is significant. Virat, universal form of the absolute, is an imagination of the speculative philosophers who are unable to adjust to the eternal two-handed form of Lord Shri Krishna. Although the universal form, as imagined by the great philosophers, is one of the features of the Lord, it is more or less imaginary. It is said that the 7 upper planetary systems are situated above the waist of the universal form, whereas the lower planetary systems are situated below his waist. The idea impressed herein is that the Supreme Lord is conscious of every part of his body, and nowhere in creation is there anything beyond his control. So Prabhupada in his purports are going to highlight that the universal form is imaginary. It's Krishna's way of allowing people who cannot accept this two-armed form of God, but they can relate to matter and slowly advance. But at the same time, there's also a conclusion that we can derive in relation to the universal form. For example, this body is functioning because the soul is in this body. As soon as the soul leaves, the body is lifeless. And because I am limited, I have some limited perception and knowing of this body. I know some things related to this body. For example, I get a headache. I know I got a headache. Or I get cut. I know I got cut. I'm hungry. I know I'm hungry. I need food. So I have, I got some stomach issues. I can feel and experience that. So as the soul, there's some sensation and some awareness in relation to the body. Similarly, this Virat Rupa is the super soul, you could say, of the universe. And the Virat Rupa can also, in terms of the understanding, know everything about creation because it is God. So therefore, Prabhupada is saying the idea impressed herein is that the Supreme Lord is conscious because why? It's his body. And therefore, he knows everything about his body. And because he's not limited like us, we may know some minute aspect of our body, but the Lord, he knows everything about every part of the creation, including you, because you are also part of this creation. So in this way, we should know that the Supreme Lord knows everything. Sometimes we may go through difficulties, we may go through challenges, we may go through so many experiences, and we may be thinking, does Krishna really know what's happening with me? Well, Krishna knows everything. Because creation is main soul of the creation, supreme soul of the creation. So he knows everything. And everything is in his control. Nowhere in the creation is there anything beyond his control. Everything is under his control. So two aspects. One is conscious and the other is control. Krishna is conscious of everything, every part of his body, every aspect, past, present, and future. And he is in control of every aspect. So just consider these two aspects. If Krishna is conscious of every part, then he's definitely conscious of me and conscious of my experiences, conscious of what is my situation. And if I am interested in Krishna, then no doubt Krishna is completely aware of my situation and what's best for me. Even though I may not accept that this is the best situation that the Lord has put me in, according to my past karma and according to what's best for me in the future, but the Lord knows. And therefore, we have to build the faith in the Supreme Lord that yes, whatever situation I am in, even though it may manifest itself through different agencies and different elements in creation, I'm in the best situation to then move forward in my spiritual life. And the second part is that Krishna is always in control. He never loses control. He never lost control. He's always in control. That means everything is moving by the sweet, supreme will of Krishna. We may not know why things happen, but they happen absolutely for a reason, or for multiple reasons. And we simply have to live our lives with full faith that Krishna is fully conscious of every circumstance and situation, and he is in full control. Whatever he desires will be. I simply have to continue my service to the Supreme Lord with greater faith, greater determination, greater purity, so that I can now be part of his will, part of his desire, part of his mission, part of his pastimes. Instead of experiencing the after effects or in the material world, I really want to be part of Krishna's pastime. So this is what's now going to be described in terms of the universal form, which is that imaginary form. And it is encapsulating all the different planets and encapsulating all the different planets from lower to upper, 14 planetary divisions or systems, starting with Satyaloka, which is the abode of Lord Brahma, Tapaloka, the abode of the four Kumaras, Janaloka, the abode of the Prajapatis, Mahaloka, the abode of Bhrigumuni and the Prajapatis, then the three middle aspects, or you could say the middle is Bur, and then higher up is Buha, and then higher up is Swarga, Swar, Bur, Buha, Swar. So the Swar is the abode of the demigods, Buha is Bur, Buha, the abode of ghostly spirits, and then Bur, the abode of human beings and other mortals. So it's interesting that the ghostly spirits are not too far up. And every 6 o'clock, Sandhya time, they, 6 o'clock morning, 6 o'clock evening, they basically come to the earth, then they go back. And therefore, during Sandhya, it's very important to engage in spiritual activity. Otherwise, you'll be getting visitors. Then, Ataloka, the abode of the demons. Then Vitala, the abode of the demons. Different demons reside in these different planets or divisions. Sutala, the abode of Balimaj. Talatala, the abode of demon Maya Danava. Mahatala, the abode of the Nagas. Rasatala, the abode of Daityas. And Patala, the abode of the Nagas. So in this way, different planetary systems are there, which basically is going to be described as well. 37. Purushasya mukham brahma shatram etasya bhavaha urvo vaishya bhagavata pradvyam sudro vyajata vyajayata. The Brahmanas represent his mouth, the Kshatriyas his arms, the Vaishyas his thighs, and the Sudras born of his legs. So this is another division that is also there related to the universal form. All living beings are stated to be parts and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and how they are so is explained in this verse. 4 divisions of human society, namely in the intelligent class, the Brahmanas, the administrative class, the Kshatriyas, the mercantile class, the Vaishyas, and the laborer class, the Sudras, are all different parts of the body of the Lord. As such, no one is different from the Lord. The mouth of the body and the legs of the body are non-different constitutionally, but the mouth or the head of the body is qualitatively more important than the legs. At the same time, the mouth, the legs, the arms, the thighs are all component parts of the body. These limbs of the body of the Lord are meant to serve the complete whole. The mouth is meant for speaking and eating. The arms are meant for protecting the body. The legs are meant for carrying the body. The waist is meant for maintaining the body. The intelligent class in society, therefore, must speak on behalf of the body, as well as accept foodstuff to satisfy the hunger of the body. The hunger of the Lord is to accept the fruits of sacrifice. So we generally also talk about the universal form and the parts, divisions of the universal form in relation to the 4 divisions of human society: Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras. We talk about the head being the intellectual class, the arms for protection, the Kshatriyas, stomach for mercantile production, and the Sudras, legs. So yes, they're all important, and they all need to play a part in serving the body. So Prabhupada is making a very beautiful point. In that way, they're not separate, but they're all meant to serve a common purpose. Similarly, we find in society These types, these four classes, four categories are there. There are those who are more intellectually stimulated. There are those who are more administrative and protective. They're inclined more for protection, to protect society. You get those who are more inclined to make money, produce goods, make profit. And then you get those individuals who are they're more inclined to hard work and labor. And each of these different classes have different aptitudes and different skills. They incline to different aspects. And therefore, it's not that one is higher than the other in the system that Krishna has created. Yes, they definitely have a hierarchy, and they definitely have there are differences, but the objective, the goal is common in terms of service to the Supreme Lord. And that is directed by the Brahmanas, the head. So the head will give direction, how to serve and who to serve. So in this way, serving the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the Kshatriyas are meant to take guidance from the Brahmanas to protect society so that everyone can engage in devotional service. The mercantile group, under the direction of the Kshatriyas, will produce so that all the needs of the society gets fulfilled, it's provided for, including the labor class. The mercantile class, they meant to provide all the needs. Bhagavatam describes they meant to provide sufficient food, sufficient shelter, even sufficient sense gratification for the laborers, for the Sudras. Why? Because then they're satisfied. And then they'll do whatever you want, they'll do. They'll work, no problem. But if you just decide to exploit, like the Kshatriyas now want to exploit the mercantile class, the business class, just tax. And in this way, the laborers get impacted. Then the whole society starts to crumble. And this is the reality of Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga, all these different groups, divisions of societies struggling. Why? Because there's so much exploitation. The Brahmanas are not giving direction. There is no Brahmanas. Therefore, Prabhupada said this international society is to create Brahmanas, so that the head of the society is placed and there can be direction. It's interesting how in Vrindavan is a letter, Srila Prabhupada's got a description of what if the devotees had to be involved in government, then Prabhupada's given certain rules and regulations, guidance, how to manage. So this is there. They're all meant to focus and give pleasure to the Supreme Lord. The Brahmanas or in the intelligent class must be very expert in performing such sacrifices. And the sub-ordinate classes must join in such sacrifices. So in that letter, Prabhupada says so that the government should just provide all the facilities so that we can have, for example, regular Sankirtan with all the ministers and feed them. They should provide facility in the country where we can have kirtan and food for life. So in this way, by propagating the glories of the Supreme Lord and incorporating all the classes, the society will be satisfied, will be happy. To speak for the Supreme Lord means to glorify the Lord by means of propagating the knowledge of the Lord as it is, broadcasting the factual nature of the Lord and the factual position of all other parts of the whole body. The Brahmanas, therefore, are required to know the Vedas, or the ultimate knowledge, the ultimate source of knowledge. Veda means knowledge, and Anta means the end of it. According to Bhagavad Gita, the Lord is the source of everything. Aham sarvasya prabhavo, Bhagavad Gita 10:8. And thus, end of all knowledge, Vedanta is to know the Lord. To know our relationship with Him and to act according to that relationship only. The parts of the body are related to the body. Similarly, living beings must know his relationship with the Lord. Human life is especially meant for this purpose, namely to know the factual relationship of every living being with the Supreme Lord. Without knowing this relationship, the human life is spoiled. So human life is meant to know your relationship with the Supreme Lord and to know that everyone is related to the Supreme Lord. When you know that everyone and everything is related to Supreme Lord, then you will respect and honor everyone and everything. And when you know that you are related to the Supreme Lord, you will know your true purpose and identity. When we do not acknowledge that everyone is related to the Supreme Lord, then there's exploitation. And when we do not know our relationship with Krishna, then there is no purpose, real purpose fulfilled. Our life is not centered around Krishna. And that relationship in the beginning may be very theoretical. Like I know Jive Sarupa Hoy Krishna Nitya Das. I know that I'm related to Krishna as a servant. But the desire, the aspiration needs to be, yes, what type of servant? Knowing that I'm a servant is good. It's glorious. It's wonderful. But what type of servant? What do I do as a servant? What form of a servant? What's my real relationship as that servant? With that aspiration, as I'm practicing devotional service, with that aspiration, I can now move towards that aspiration. So the Brahmanas, they are pivotal and key because they're giving this knowledge and they're implementing, giving direction so that everyone can slowly develop their relationship with the Supreme Lord. When you have, they talk about headless chickens. If you cut the head of a chicken, that chicken just runs wild, suffering, but hitting every obstacle that comes because there's no direction. So when society has no Brahmana, no head, then the society just goes in any direction and every direction. And then there's chaos. The intelligent class, the Brahmanas, are therefore especially responsible for broadcasting this knowledge of our relationship with the Lord and leading the general mass of people to the right path. Now, Prabhupada says the Brahmanas, which are meant to lead the society and meant to give knowledge so that everyone can be moving in the right direction, yes, according to their level of commitment and surrender, but that direction should be common in relation to God. Now, Prabhupada made the point that the Krishna conscious movement is there to create Brahmanas. So therefore, we find that this knowledge, which the Brahmanas are meant to disseminate in the society, is given by Srila Prabhupada in his Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada. So simply by taking the knowledge that Prabhupada has given and then distributing that knowledge far and wide, we as a society is acting as the Brahminical leg or limb for fulfilling this purpose. And yes, in terms of example and leading people, that's there. But we can see the importance of the education that Prabhupada has given as very, 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 very important to rebuild, revive, or as Bhagavatam says, revolutionize create a revolution in the right direction. So this knowledge is very, very important. And Prabhupada had stress more and more. I was listening to one video of Keshav Maharaj and was making the point that he just gave his realization in terms of why Prabhupada emphasized book distribution. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj emphasized printing and distributing books. Srila Prabhupada emphasized printing and distributing books. And he said one reason, he gave it as a conspiracy theory, that if we see more and more, if the non-Brahmanical leaders are in control, and not even non-Brahmanical, but even those with demonic tendencies are in control, what would they want to do? They would want to control more and more and more. They would want to control every aspect of your life. So, for example, you see in some countries, like in China and different countries, your social media is completely regulated. Your location is tracked. They know exactly where you are at any point in time. So the idea is to control every aspect, where you are, what you do, how you do it, complete control. Which implies that they will dictate what information gets broadcast to you. So with technology, that is possible. And if we're moving away from books, like if you ask youngsters, I don't know, you ask it, those of you that got young children, ask them if they know what's a library. It's like, huh? What library? It's like now it's only Kindle, right? You go online. What library? I know there was a library. You could go in, and there's still libraries available, I'm sure, in some places. You can go in and there's books there on the shelves. You can read. So the direction is that everything will be controlled. Your bank account. If they want to stop you from they don't like you, they just switch you off like that. So at that point in time, when that happens, people will be searching for knowledge to become free. And there they will see on a shelf or on the street, devotees distributing books. So it's as time progresses, and even now we see, people are still publishing books, something that's not really non-existent. Books are still there and everyone publishes a book. It may be in an electronic version, but the book's still there. And therefore, those books will really be the saving grace. And Prabhupada also made a point that in future, historians will note and they will say that Srila Prabhupada has actually saved humanity. So that pivotal point of what actually has happened at that point, that that the historians would have, would say that Prabhupada's mission saved humanity, we may or may not see in the future, or exist to see in the future, but it's going to come somehow. Whatever the directions that the world is moving in, the direction that Prabhupada has created his society will save many, many souls. So therefore, the Brahmanas are very, very important. The intellectual class is very, very important. Then Prabhupada says the administrative class is meant for protecting the living beings so that they can serve this purpose. And Prabhupada said that 50% of his work was undone. This was part of the 50% that was undone. Prabhupada had created the foundation. He did not know how long he's going to live. In fact, Prabhupada died, and because of the prayers of his disciples, Krishna extended his life. And Prabhupada did not know how long he would continue to live. Therefore, as an emergency, he had to put in place an emergency, you could say, emergency protocol in place, his books, knowledge, etc., in the limited time he had. And the rest would evolve according to the sincere followers and disciples of Srila Prabhupada. So the 50% that Prabhupada did, he was able to establish, and the rest of the 50%, which was, these different divisions, Prabhupada wanted to teach by example and put all this in place so that you would have a perfect blueprint for the whole society for both the material and spiritual needs, all centered around Krishna. The administrative class is meant for protecting the living beings, and so they can serve this purpose. There's a group of devotees that are focusing on this aspect, specifically in terms of Kshatriyas. So they studying, different scriptures in relation to Kshatriyas, looking at the Mahabharata, and then implementing that. Because the Vedas have Dharma Shastra, everything in relation to administration, war, etc. Everything is there. So upskilling different devotees that have this aptitude. The mercantile class is meant for producing food grains and distributing them to the complete human society so that the whole population is given a chance to live comfortably and discharge the duties of human life. So it's not meant for exploitation. It's not meant that only a few live comfortably and the rest are starving. This is not how the Lord designed creation. Even though the living entity has the desire to exploit and enjoy separately, but as the Supreme Father, Krishna, created the whole creation with the demigods so that they would be ample for everyone to live happily and enjoy in this material world separately from him. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains demigods are there. Process of worshipping the demigods are there. And by sacrifice, by pleasing the demigods, they would provide everything and in this way live happily. But unfortunately, there are those, and because of minute independence, Krishna allows them, that they will want to exploit and control others. And in this way, more and more control and exploitation permeates the world, and then you get this idea of divide and conquer. The mercantile class is also required to give protection to the cows in order to get sufficient milk and milk products, which alone can give the proper health and intelligence to maintain a civilization perfectly meant for the knowledge of the ultimate truth. So cows, cow protection, milk of the cows is a very important integral part of spiritual life. And here, it's interesting in the Vedic theology, in the Vedic understanding, we have Brahmanical cows, not just ordinary cows. Now there's a lot of crossbreeds, and the whole idea of creating cows is more business, and it's exploiting them. But in Vedic culture, they were Brahmanical cows. So these cows who are Brahman cows, they have special power and potency to extract the prana, the energy from the sun, into the milk, energize the milk with all the nutrients that we need to fertilize the brain so that we can understand Krishna consciousness. So it is very, very scientific. And again, in some parts of India, there's different groups that are focusing specifically on maintaining these breeds of cows. and the milk that comes from the cow, from those cows, the ghee that comes from those cows, etc., is very, very extremely healthy compared to the usual. Most of the milk that we buy, this is not really from the Brahmanical cows, Brahmanical cows. They crossbreeds and therefore exploited in terms of making money. And then finally, the laborer class, who are neither intelligent nor powerful, can help by physical service to others, to the other higher classes, and thus be benefited by their cooperation. So yes, they may not have the intelligence and they may not be powerful, but they definitely love to work. A real Sudra, scriptures describe a real Sudra, is someone who loves to work. If Friday comes and you tell them week off, weekday off, weekend off, they won't like it. That's a real Sudra. They just love to work. And therefore, in Kali Yuga, it is described, Kalo Sudra Sambhavan. Everyone is Sudra and lower than Sudra. Therefore, universe is a complete unit in relationship with the Lord, and without this relationship with the Lord, the whole human society is disturbed and is without any peace and prosperity. So that's the conclusion of the state of affairs that we are experiencing. And why? It's simple. Because it's without relationship with the Lord. As soon as you cut that relationship with Krishna, you lose the peace and prosperity. Bhaktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram. Lord Krishna is giving this peace formula. And when we know he's the Bhaktaram, he's the sarvaloka maheshwaram, he's the enjoyer, he's the controller, he's the proprietor. When we have that relationship with Krishna and know that, then Shantim Richati, then there's peace and prosperity. Otherwise, there is no peace, no prosperity. This is confirmed in the Vedas. Brahmano Sya Mukham Ashit Bahu Rajanya Krita. 38. Bhuloka Kalpita Padyam Bhuvarloka Shanina Bitam Riddha Sarvaloka Sham Maharloka Mahatmanam. The low apprentice systems up to the limit of the earthly stratum are said to be situated on his legs. Middle planetary systems beginning from Bhurloka are situated on his navel. And still higher planetary systems occupied by the demigods and highly cultured sages and saints are situated on the chest of the Supreme Lord. The 14 spheres of planetary systems within this universe, there are 14 spheres of planetary systems within the universe. The lower systems are called Bhurloka, the middle systems are called Bhuvarloka, and the higher planetary systems up to Brahmaloka, the highest planetary system of the universe, are called Swargaloka. And all of them are situated on the body of the Lord. In other words, no one within the universe is without a relationship with the Lord. So every part, right down from the top to the bottom, they're all connected to the Supreme Lord. That connection is important. So in the previous purport, Srila Prabhupada is talking about the key aspect of having a relationship with Krishna. The divisions need to have a relationship with Krishna. Every living entity has a relation with Krishna. Here we see how all the different systems, the 14 planetary systems within the universe, is also related to the Supreme Lord, even though the relationship is imaginary in terms of the Virat Rupa. But the imaginary concept of the Virat Rupa in relation to Krishna is there to facilitate the idea, the concept, the importance of relationship. That yes, each of these different planetary systems are connected to Krishna, and therefore nothing is without a relationship with Krishna. It is this aspect of relationship and relating everything to Krishna that gives it meaning and purpose and the purifying agent. Now we can bring this down and bring it in a more even a practical sense. So for example, every activity that we do, if we connect it to Krishna, it has meaning, purpose, and it's a purifying activity. There is the example of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, Vishnu Jan Swami, Jayananda, many of these stalwart disciples. They would, because they were completely dedicated and in love with Srila Prabhupada, then everything that they did, they would do that in relationship to Srila Prabhupada. So for example, I think it was either Jayananda or Vishnu Jan Swami, and he shared how, for example, brushing your teeth. So, brushing the teeth, your body's teeth, brushing your teeth, it's a totally mundane activity that you have to do. It apparently seems like there is no Krishna conscious relevance to brushing your teeth. It's because you have a body, it's mundane, you have to do it, bottom line. But he was able to relate that, link that completely to Krishna. How? He had given his life to Srila Prabhupada. And he was thinking, and this is how he would think. He said, this is, in every activity I would think, is this pleasing to Srila Prabhupada? Every activity. No matter what he did, he would have this sutra. This was like his sutra for action. Is this pleasing to Srila Prabhupada? Yes, do it. No, don't do it. So this was his guiding principle. This was his North Star. This was his decision-making. Yes or no? Yes, pleasing to Srila Prabhupada, embrace. No, leave it. So he would say, okay, should I get up now at 4 o'clock? Is it pleasing Srila Prabhupada if I get up now at 4 o'clock? Yes, do it. Should I go take a shower? Yes. Is it pleasing Srila Prabhupada? Yes. Why? Because you need to be cleansed to go to the temple. Yes, do it. Okay, brushing my teeth. Should I brush my teeth? Yes. Why? Srila Prabhupada will be pleased. Why? Because you're going to honor Krishna Prasad and you want to put Krishna into a nice environment, clean teeth. Okay, I need to brush. Therefore, brush. So in this way, every activity he would consider this is pleasing to Prabhupada, and then he would continue and do it. So in this way, even apparent mundane, totally mundane activities which apparently have no connection, when you're worshiping the deity and you're offering something to the deity, you're addressing the deity, is a connection. You're holding a Bhagavatam and you're reading the Bhagavatam. There's a genuine connection there. It's directly Krishna. But when you brush your teeth, it's like, there's no Krishna there. There's no connection with it. But when you now link it this way, you're going to chant the holy name and Krishna is going to be there in your mouth, in your tongue. So therefore, cleansing is very important. So in this is the point, the example of relating with Krishna. If we relate everything with Krishna, then the experience changes. The result changes. Robert gives the example. It's the same product. Yogurt and milk. It's the same. Yogurt is also coming from milk and milk is coming from milk. Milk is milk. So the same product. But if you take too many milk products, you get indigestion. But if you take another milk product with black pepper and salt, like yogurt and black pepper and salt, then it cures indigestion. So the same product is just how it's taken. Similarly, the same activity, just how it's embraced, can change the result, the effect of that activity. If we do our work with me in the center and I'm the boss, then I will suffer the consequence. If I do my work with me as a servant of Krishna, and I need to try to please Krishna in everything I do, then that work has a different outcome, has a different result. So like that, this is what the universal form is also directing souls to. That as soon as somebody connects even the planets to the form of Krishna, that link to Krishna has now manifested. And therefore, in this way, it becomes a blessing. And then, yes, that relationship matures. It's not like, oh yeah, now I'm connected to Krishna, but no, that relationship becomes more and more realized, more and more mature, more and more sweeter. Until, as Prabhupada says, when you chant Hare Krishna, you will see Krishna face to face. Just consider this, that if you chant Hare Krishna, you are seeing Krishna face to face. Right now, when we're chanting Krishna, it's like Krishna is not there. So if Krishna is not there, then how can Prabhupada says when chant Hare Krishna, you seeing face to face? Because that's exactly where it's leading to. But we need to slowly move in that direction and try and aspire for that. You want the aspiration is to get to that realization. If Prabhupada is saying, he's not lying. But if I don't have an aspiration to move in that direction, that means I don't have an aspiration to keep improving and move in the right direction. Then bhakti becomes dry and hackneyed. In Act of Instruction, Srila Rupa Goswami describes Niyamagraha, performing devotional activities for the wrong reason, not for spiritual progress, or neglecting rules and regulations. And there's a third one, stagnation, not making advancement. So yes, the relationship, Krishna's made different arrangements like the universal form to get everyone to relate in some way or other to him. But it's not just meant to be a very superficial relationship, but that relationship is meant to get deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper until it is fully bloomed. 39. Grivayam janalokasya tapolokas tanad dvatyat mudabi satyalokastu Brahma Loka Sanatana. From the forefront of the chest up to the neck of the universal form of the Lord are situated the planetary systems named Janaloka and Tapaloka, whereas Satyaloka, the topmost planetary system, is situated on the head of the spiritual planets, however, are eternal. Many times in these pages, we have discussed the spiritual planets situated beyond the material sky. And the description is corroborated in this verse. The word Sanatan is significant. This very idea of eternity is expressed in Bhagavad Gita 8:20, where it is said that beyond the material creation is the spiritual sky, where everything is eternal. Sometimes Satyaloka, the planet in which Brahma resides, is also called Brahmaloka. But the Brahmaloka mentioned here is not the same as Satyaloka planetary systems. This Brahmaloka is eternal, whereas the Satyaloka planetary system is not eternal. And to distinguish between the two, the adjective Sanatan has been used in this case. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, this Brahmaloka is the local abode of Brahman, or Brahman, or the Supreme Lord. In the spiritual sky, all the planets are as good as the Lord himself. The Lord is all spirit, and his fame, his name, fame, glories, qualities, pastimes, etc. are all non-different from him because he is absolute. As such, the planets in the kingdom of God are also non-different from him. In those planets, there is no difference between the body and the soul, nor is there any influence of time as we experience it in the material world. So this is the beauty of the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam presents the reality of the material world, the reality of the material realm, and then without fail links it to the ultimate truth. We see Prabhupada doing this again and again and again also. Prabhupada does this also. He will tell you something, and he will then give an example, and it may be a mundane example, and then without fail, Prabhupada will relate it to a spiritual aspect, a spiritual point, or the spiritual world of Krishna. Like one time Prabhupada was walking, and all of a sudden Prabhupada stopped and pointed his cane to the ground. And he asked his disciples who were all there, what is this? And Prabhupada was pointing to a heap of bird-stool. And the disciples were looking at birds' droppings and they were thinking, like, what's this? So they said, Prabhupada, bird-stool. It's like, bird droppings. Why? What else is there to know about it? It's bird droppings. Like, that's it. And Prabhupada said, no, it's attachment. How is it attachment? Because the bird is attached to that same branch. And because the bird is attached to the same branch, then the bird droppings fall in exactly the same spot and it becomes a heap. So Prabhupada was able to see bird droppings in relation to attachment and then take it further. And therefore what we've been attached, even birds are attached. Prabhupada writes in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna's problem was excessive attachment. This causes problems in the material world. And we want to transfer that attachment to Krishna. We want to become excessively attached to Krishna. We want to become addicted to Krishna. So anything that stimulates attachment to Krishna, we should embrace. It reminded me, this morning we were listening to a lecture, Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada was talking in relation to the universal form. And Prabhupada said, just universal form is there, but think of dressing the universal form. It's like, how are you going to dress the universal form? Or you have to have such a huge outfit to dress the universal form. You can't do that. It's impractical. So Krishna is so kind. He appears as the Acharya. This way Krishna manifests as the Acharya Vigraha, so that we can offer him service. And through that service, we can become attached to Krishna. Prabhupada was also saying the deities, when we dress them nicely, then they create imprints, impressions on our consciousness. And we want that regularly, so that impressions starts to cultivate the right attachment. So everything needs to be connected. Everything needs to be related. So here the Bhagavatam is talking about Virat Rupa, this material world, and all the planetary systems within this creation, but immediately says, yes, there's also Sanatan. Don't get too caught up with the creation and lose focus of the Sanatan. We find this danger also in the material world. We may get so sidetracked in this material world with the relative aspects of issues and problems and survival, etc., that we forget the essence. Never lose focus of the essential reason of our purpose, of our life. Don't get distracted. Don't get caught up. Robert gives the example of a caravan passing and the dogs are barking. The caravan, the driver of the caravan has a destination. And while the caravan is passing, the dogs will bark. Now, if the driver becomes distracted, if the driver loses focus of where he's meant to go and then gets distracted by the dogs barking, he wants to stop and then deal with the dogs. That's wasting time. So like that, yes, we are aware that the dogs are barking, but we don't want to stop and keep moving in the right direction to our destination. Similarly, the Bhagavatam is giving descriptions of creation, different description of the planetary systems and the situation, etc., but never losing focus of the primary objective of Bhagavatam and the goal of human form of life is to go back to that Sanatan sky. And Prabhupada is giving beautiful example or description by Jiva Goswami that the Sanatan sky is the spiritual world, spiritual sky, and everything is spiritual is absolute. The name, form, glories, qualities, and pastimes are all non-different from Krishna. And therefore, by hearing about the name of Krishna, by hearing about the fame, the glories, the pastimes, the qualities, that means by hearing the Bhagavatam, because the Bhagavatam has all these aspects of the Supreme Absolute Truth. So by regularly associating with the Bhagavatam, you are actually associating with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. This is the beauty, this is the glory. Krishna, our relationship has been tainted. But by bringing in the Bhagavatam, we are now directly associating with Krishna and we are mending that relationship. We are purifying that relationship again. We are reviving that relationship again, simply by constantly hearing. This will purify the heart and then resuscitate that beautiful relationship. The kingdom of God is also non-different from the Supreme Lord. So this is the place, this is the residence, this is our home. Totally different from the material world. And as Prabhupada says, in those planets, there is no difference between the body and the soul. There's no difference between the body and the soul. And I want to link that statement of Prabhupada, there's no difference between the body and the soul, back to our example of the laddu, the sweet ball. In this material world, there's a difference between the body and the soul. Therefore, when I eat the laddu, when I eat the sweet ball, technically, because of the difference, I ain't eating the sweet ball. It is the body that's eating the sweet ball and simulating, due to an ahankara and false ego and everything else, thinking that the soul is eating the sweet ball, but no, there's a difference. In the spiritual world, there is no difference between the body and the soul. That means the body and the soul are one. If the body and the soul are one, and in the spiritual world you eat the laddu, you are correct. You are eating the laddu. You are eating the sweet ball. Now you can truly say, I had a sweet ball that Krishna ate. Now that's correct. Otherwise, in the material world, We have to understand there's a vast difference. In addition to there being no influence of time, the planets in Brahmaloka, due to being spiritual, are never animated. And this is why we do not love to experience destruction. It's a very, very uneasy feeling. If you see the unfortunate event of the tornado in Tongat, practically ripped people's homes. And there you come home and you see the house is practically non-existent. Very unsettling, very disturbing, very unfortunate. Why? Because we do not love things which are temporary. We want happiness that is eternal. We want experiences that are eternal. We want relationships that are eternal. Everything that we want eternality. Why? Because we are by nature Sat Chit Ananda. We are Sat in nature. The spiritual world is Sat in nature. Therefore, anything that destroys is uncomfortable. And that should become a motivating force for us to become more and more Krishna conscious. Because we are in a place that is temporary. Dukhalayam ashashwatam. Dukhalayam means a place of misery. Ashashwatam means temporary. That which does not exist in the future is ashashwatam. So therefore, the Lord is already stamping this place as a Dukhalayam ashashwatam. And that should be one reason, one motivating factor to say, yes, I'm here. I have to, make best use of the bad bargain, but let me use my time valuably. Let me use all the resources, the energy, everything I got optimally, nicely, so that I can perfect my life once and for all and return to the eternal shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All variegatedness in the spiritual planets is also one with the Lord. And therefore the Vedic homophorism, ekam evad dvitiyam, is fully realized in that Sanatan atmosphere of spiritual variegatedness. This material world is only a shadow phantasmagoria of the spiritual kingdom of the Lord. And because it is a shadow, it is never eternal. The variegatedness in the material world of duality, spirit and matter, cannot be compared to that of the spiritual world. Because of poor fund of knowledge, less intelligent persons sometimes mistake conditions of shadow world to be equivalent to those of the spiritual world. And thus they mistake the Lord and his pastimes in the material world to be one with the conditioned souls and their activities. The Lord condemns such less intelligent persons in Bhagavad Gita 9:11. So Jiva Goswami is telling us, and Bhagavatam is telling us, there's a spiritual realm which is totally different from the material realm. Yes, and the variegatedness that's there, it's also here. But ultimately, the goal is to return there and not get trapped in the duality, variegatedness of the material world. At the same time, we should also not make the mistake that the material world is exactly like the spiritual world. No, it's not. It's diametrically opposite. The variegatedness is there, but the nature of that variegatedness is temporary. The spiritual world is Sat, Chit, and Ananda. The material world is Asat, temporary, Achit, full of ignorance, and Nirananda, full of misery. That's the reality. And we also should not make the mistake that when the Lord descends in this world and performs his pastimes, then those pastimes are of the nature of the conditioned soul or the nature of this material world. No, his pastimes are totally, completely transcendental. They're part of the spiritual nature. Krishna is simply coming to this world and performing these pastimes so that we can become attracted. No other reason. This is Krishna's mercy. This is Krishna's compassion. Bhagavad Gita 9:11. Avajananti mamuda manushim tanum ashritam rambhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Whenever the Lord incarnates, he does so in his full internal potency, Atma Maya, and less intelligent persons mistake him to be one of the material creations. Srila Sridhar Swami, therefore, rightly commenting on this verse, says that the Brahmaloka mentioned here is Vaikuntha, kingdom of God, which is Sanatan, or eternal, and is therefore not exactly like the material creation described above. The Virat universal form is an imagination of the material world. It has nothing to do with the spiritual world or the kingdom of God. So there's two realities, and we can not mix the two realities like the impersonalists or the Mayavadis do. Krishna, when he appears in this world, he comes fully with his internal potency, and therefore all the pastimes of Krishna are enacted on the platform of the internal potency. They're not mundane at all. Similarly, when the pure devotee who's completely surrendered 100% to the Supreme Lord, when he performs all his activities, they also performed under the internal potency, Atmamaya, and not the material energy. Someone may ask, well, if a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada is on the material, on the spiritual plane, in the material world, then how is he getting old? That aspect of Prabhupada getting old is simply an aspect to facilitate greater service. Like Prabhupada is getting old, so the disciples can now render more service looking after Srila Prabhupada and becoming more endeared to Srila Prabhupada. So it's an aspect of facilitate greater and greater service. So this is the aspect of the material creation that's been described. There is three divisions, Bhur, Bhuva, Swaha, the different planets that we spoke about. We in the middle planetary system, the Earth planet, and even this aspect of the Earth planet that will be extended. In fact, many of the planets will be extended further in the 5th canto. More descriptions will be given of the actual details and the sizes and what happens there, because many people think we're the only people existing in Earth and nothing else is happening in creation. Well, they need to read the Bhagavatam, that their personalities. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Sarvagata, the living entities are all pervading. So all over the universe, they are unlimited living entities in every part. And the objective is not to go up and not to go down. This material world is a prison house, is our playground to suffer, playground to exploit. And the goal is not to go higher in the playground or the prison, or lower in the playground or the prison, but to get out of the prison. The goal is not to go to A-class prison or Z-class prison, but to get out of the prison. And the beauty of being here is it's already halfway out of the material world. If you want to get out of the material world, just like if I'm in the house and I want to leave the house, I need to go to the entrance. I need to move in the direction of the entrance, the door of the house, and then move out. I can't just move in any direction. I can't go to the bedroom and expect to go out of the house by going into the bedroom. No, I can't go into the bathroom and expect to go out unless there's a door that leads me out. Generally, a home has a front door. That front door is your exit or entrance point to go in and out of the house. So the earth planet is the entrance, or rather, is the exit point to leave the material creation, which implies that everyone in the higher planets, they must come to earth planet to exit. Everyone in the lower planets must come to earth to exit. And then in earth planet, the exit point is Vrindavan or Navadvip. From there, you can then exit back to the spiritual world. So we have received the human form on the earth planet. We are close to the exit point. And now by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we are creating Vrindavan. We may not be able to go to the planet of Vrindavan, but we are creating the atmosphere of Vrindavan so that we can Krishnatize our life and consciousness, so that when we leave, we can now take birth in Vrindavan. And then from there, go back to the spiritual world. 40 and 41. Tat katyam kattalam klaptam urubhyam vitalam vibo janubhyam sutalam sudam jangabhyam tu talatalam mahatalam tu gopya upabhyam prapadayam rasatalam patalam pada talata iti lokamayam pumam. My dear son Narada, know from me that there are 7 low-tier planetary systems out of the total 14. The first planetary system, known as Atala, is situated on the waist. The second, Vitala, is situated on the thigh. The third, Sutala, on the knees. The fourth, Tatatala, on the shanks. The fifth, Mahatala, on the ankles. The sixth, Rasatala, on the upper portion of the feet. The seventh, Pataloka, on the sole of the feet. Thus, Virat form of the Lord is full of planetary systems. Report. Modern enterprises, the astronauts who travel in space, may take information from Srimad Bhagavatam that in space there are 14 divisions of planetary systems. The situation is calculated from the earthly planet and planetary system, which is called Bhurloka. Above Bhur is Bhuharloka, and the topmost planetary system is called Satyaloka. These are the upper 7 lokas or planetary systems, and similarly, there are 7 lower planetary systems known as Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Mahatala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala lokas. All these planetary systems are scattered over the complete universe, which occupy an area of 2 billion miles, 2 billion square miles. The modern astronauts can travel only a few thousand miles away from the Earth, and therefore their attempt to travel in the sky is something like child's play on the shore of an expansive ocean. Moon is situated in the 3rd status of the upland systems. In the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, we will be able to know the distant situation of the various planets scattered over the vast material sky. There are innumerable universes beyond the one in which we are put. And all these material universes cover only an insignificant portion of the spiritual sky, which is described above as Sanatan Brahman. The Supreme Lord very kindly invites the intelligent human beings to return home back to Godhead in the following verse of the Bhagavad Gita 8:16. Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punar Arvartino Arjuna Mam Upetya Tukonteya Punar Janma Navidyate. Beginning from Satya Loka, the topmost planet of the universe, situated just below the eternal Brahma Loka, as described above, all the planets are material, and one situation in any of the material planets, in many of the material planets, is still subject to the laws of material nature, namely birth, death, old age, and disease. Therefore, Prabhupada would often say these are the 4 main problems: birth, death, disease, and old age. We need to solve these four. If we can solve these four problems, life is sorted. And doesn't matter where it's right from Brahmaloka down to Patalaloka, these problems are prevalent. And the goal is to get out. So the Supreme Lord is very kindly inviting the intelligent human beings. Krishna is kindly inviting. He's not forcing, he's kindly inviting. Prabhupada says both Maya and the devotees have the same purpose, but they do it in two different ways. Maya says, the devotee and the Lord come with folded hands. Please surrender. The devotee says, please surrender to Krishna. Please take up Krishna consciousness. Please chant Hare Krishna humbly. And Maya, she boots. She gives kicks. She slaps. She can be very devastating. So we have a choice. Who do we want to heed? Do we want to heed the humble approach? Or do we want the kick slaps, the booting? Choice is ours. But one can get complete liberation from all the above mentioned material pangs when one enters into the eternal Brahmaloka Sanatan atmosphere. Into the eternal Brahmaloka Sanatan atmosphere, the kingdom of God. Therefore, liberation, as contemplated by the speculative philosophers and mystics, is possible only when one becomes a devotee of the Lord. Anyone who is not a devotee cannot enter into the kingdom of God. Only by attainment of service, a service attitude in the transcendental position, one enter into the kingdom of God. So no gate crashing, no bribery, no corruption. You cannot just enter the spiritual world. You need to cultivate service attitude. Without cultivating the service attitude, without service, because why? The spiritual world is all about serving Krishna. Krishna is the center and everyone wants to serve Krishna. Every living entity in the spiritual wants to serve Krishna. Nobody is desiring separate pleasure than Krishna. In every endeavor, when the gopis, they are waking up to dress themselves, they're preparing, they have worldly activities, they have family responsibilities. In every endeavor, their only intention is how to give pleasure to Krishna. So spiritual world means Krishna is the center. Material world means you the center. If you the center, it means give me pleasure. If Krishna is in the center, give Krishna pleasure. So therefore, we need to, that psyche of, for me, needs to be changed for Krishna. And if you consider this in every part of our service, let's say you're cooking a Sunday feast. Now, if you're cooking a Sunday feast, most people will prepare a feast according to what they like, according to their taste. So that means, what do I like? Let's make that. Instead of, what does Krishna like? Let's make that. What pleases Krishna's devotees? What pleases Srila Prabhupada? Ultimately, let's make that. So in this way, that is why in the early days it was a blessing that when the devotees, when Prabhupada was there and they had to cook for Prabhupada, they had to cook what Prabhupada likes. Otherwise, if you had to cook for Prabhupada and he didn't like it, like in Nairobi, and they made start for Prabhupada, Prabhupada said it's horse food. Imagine you cook something for the devotees and, they said, this is like horse food. They said, what's wrong, Prabhu? You're not appreciating our cooking or something. But when Prabhupada says this is horse food, well, I'm very sorry, but this is horse food. And Prabhupada had to teach them how to cook. You had to go into the kitchen and cook for them, teach them. So that's the blessing of having a living guru, a living acharya, because he can correct you. Now you can cook like horse food, and unfortunately, there may be nobody to tell you. And you are offering horse food and thinking, so advanced, making advancement, cooking. In the meantime, that food is not getting offered. That food is, it's not making you advance. So the more we direct our attention to the pleasure of Hari Guru Vaishnavas, away from our own sense gratification, the further we will go on our spiritual journey. And in every aspect, we can think like this. What gives pleasure to Supreme Lord? That's what we need to embrace. The more we embrace this, the closer we go to that realm. In fact, going back to the spiritual is not an aspect of like I'm taking a spaceship and taking a rocket and going up. It's not an aspect of distance. It's an aspect of consciousness. It's an evolution. It's an elevation of consciousness. I'm not elevating myself to the spiritual world in terms of travel, in terms of distance. I'm elevating myself in terms of consciousness. It's conscious elevation, Krishna consciousness. I'm making my consciousness Krishnatized. When I become Krishna conscious, I'm already in the spiritual world. I don't go back to the kingdom of God. I don't go back to Godhead. I'm already with Godhead. I'm already in the spiritual environment. 42. Bhuloka kalpita padbyam Purva lokasya nad pita swarloka kalpito murdna itiva loka kalpana. Others may divide the whole planetary systems into three divisions, namely the low planetary systems on the legs, upper to the earth, the middle planetary systems on the navel, and the upper planetary system, Swarloka, from the chest of the head of the personality. Supreme Personality. The three divisions of the complete planetary systems are here mentioned. 14 are imagined by others, and that is also explained. So according to different understanding here, there's basically just three levels. The lower, middle, and the upper, then they can be, as described in previous verses, 14. But either way, it's all about connection, all about relationship. And it's only the beginning, it's the first step as described in the first chapter of the second canto. It's the first step in realizing the Supreme Lord. Not the end, it's the first step. And the Bhagavatam is revealing these steps systematically. Bhagavatam is revealing that relationship is nurtured with devotion, with the sentiment to please. And we find all our activities become perfected when there's that love, when there's that sentiment to please. For example, you may serve someone, you may work, for example, work for someone, but that person that you work for, you may not love that person. But when you love Krishna, automatically work is there, service is there. So you serve your boss, but you may not love your boss. But you serve Krishna because there's love. So when there's love, there's service. You may know someone, but you may not love that person. But with Krishna, when you know Krishna, or you love Krishna, there's already knowledge of Krishna. You may meditate on someone and there may not be any love. But when you love Krishna, you'll meditate. So because of pure love of Krishna, because when you love Krishna, then your work, your knowledge, your meditation, everything becomes perfect, becomes imbued with that love. Whereas in the material world, we may engage in all these different activities minus love for Krishna. It is basically binding. So Lord Brahma wonderfully explains from creation, or from the beginning of creation, where Mahavishnu glances right to the manifestation of a universal form, and further creation of all the different things that we see, the species that we see, the details that we see. This is all manifestation of Brahma, secondary creation. So what we've covered now is the primary creation. Secondary creation, the Bhagavatam will reveal. Thus ends the Bhaktivinoda purport of the second canto, first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Cause of All Causes. Vantarat Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Brahmanande, Hari Hari Bol. Are there any questions or comments anyone has? Please let us know in the chat. Or if you want to unmute and share, you're most welcome.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I have
Hare
a
Krishna.
question.
Yes, please.
Prabhuji, you said that in spiritual world, soul is eating as body and soul are one. But in material world, body is eating. But soul is the one that is enjoying. So soul, you didn't mention that. That's I'm adding that. You said that material world, body is eating. So my point is, even body is eating, but it is the soul that is enjoying. It is eating through the body. It is different that soul isn't satisfied, but it's not the body it is eating. It is just an instrument, but the enjoyment goes to the soul. So that is the why soul isn't satisfied. So what I'm trying to say that even the body is doing a mechanical job by eating, but the enjoyment is going through the soul. That's the reason soul is enjoying using the body for the gratification, because directly or indirectly it's the soul who's enjoying. So what could you say on that?
Yes, the soul's desire is manifested through different layers. The desire of the soul, the ultimate desire of the soul, is not really to eat a sweet ball, but to enjoy, to lord over material nature. So that desire of the soul to lord it over material nature in the material world, that is now manifested. It's pushed, it's presented itself through the layers of the subtle body, mind, intelligence, and false ego, and then through the physical body in terms of the senses, and then on the material plane, we see the sweet ball, and then we want to enjoy. So yes, the desire is manifesting from the soul. And yes, we can say that when the body is eating the sweet ball, the soul is getting enjoyment, but the amount of enjoyment that the soul gets is only on the mental plane, which means that the soul itself is not enjoying. The soul is thinking it's enjoying, because it's identifying with the senses, with the mind. So because of that identification, you thinking you are enjoying. Bhagavatam says, therefore, all sense gratification is mental concoction. It's all thinking I'm enjoying. And therefore, because I'm thinking I'm enjoying, I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm happy. No, you're not happy. Because the soul really needs Krishna. Only when the soul gets Krishna, then the soul is happy. See, so therefore you'll find that thinking won't last. That thinking will change. That thinking is very flickering. That thinking is going to be conditioned. That thinking is slowly going to lead you to depression. because it is not genuine. When you keep doing something that's false, that's not part of your real nature, it will eventually lead to depression and suicide. So therefore, that's the way to say that really, you're not really enjoying. Yes, you may be thinking I'm enjoying, etc. And that's why Prabhupada is saying, don't neglect that. We can give you that. You can think you're happy because you need to be happy to be able to practice Krishna consciousness. But the real enjoyment, now in the spiritual world, it's totally different. See, in the material world, it's the soul in the region of the heart and the body. Two different identities, two different realities, and even two different natures. Nature, one is material and the other is spiritual. Oil and water. Now, in the spiritual world, no material body. You are there as the spirit soul in your original spiritual form. You don't have a body. You are the body. You don't have a soul. You are the soul. That means in the spiritual world, the soul, the body, the mind, the intelligence is all one person. For example, here in this material body, as the spirit soul, I have my own senses. I have my own mind, which is spiritual. It's interesting. There's this ear that hears. There's also a subtle ear that's connected to the mind. And then the soul also has an ear. That's why when you're chanting, you want to chant with this ear, purifying the subtle ear, taking it to the real ear. You need to hear the Hare Krishna mantra. When you actually hear, not this ear, not the subtle ear of the mind, but you, the soul, actually hear the Hare Krishna mantra. That's when the purification really happens. So like that, the sweet ball, subtle enjoyment may be there, but it's not tangible, especially prasadam. Mundane enjoyment doesn't get to the soul. Prasadam has some influence, but real enjoyment is when we go back to the spiritual where we don't have the body. Krishna and Krishna's body are non-different. It's not that there's Krishna, the soul, and Krishna, the body. No, non-different. Similarly, the soul in the spiritual world, like a gopi or gopa or tree or bird, plant, etc., they're non-different. They're actually entities that are supreme, that totally are spiritual.
So,
Prabhuji, yes.
Prabhuji, you said that soul is thinking that it is enjoying, but it is not enjoying. But or it could be like soul is that enjoyment is real, but it is temporary. So soul starts hankering for more happiness, but since it is temporary, it goes away. And since this happiness in the material world is Maya, so the soul get disillusioned and then start hankering for it. It means, what I'm trying to say, it means the soul, the happiness that you said that soul is thinking is not it's really thinking, it's real, but it is so temporary, and that soul start hankering for it more and more.
Yes, the soul's activity. What can the soul do? According to scripture, the soul can only desire. So all the thinking, feeling, and willing, this is all coming from the mind. The soul is really desiring. So unfortunately, we are totally trapped. And we confuse all the faculties of what's going on internally. The thinking, Prabhupada says, thinking, feeling, and willing. All these faculties we confuse with the soul. But actually, all these faculties are simply on the level of the mind. Now, we don't need to go too much into these things because we can get bewildered. What we need to know is, yes, I'm trapped. I'm not satisfied. And the only thing that will satisfy me right now is my relationship with Krishna. So let me work on that. However, all the mechanisms are happening, because if you start going into all the mechanisms, okay, let me see, am I thinking, or is the mind thinking? Am I feeling or the mind feeling? That can bewilder you. Like, for example, like if I'm eating a laddu, right? Am I eating the laddu, or is my body eating the laddu? No, mind eating the laddu? No, don't worry about that. Just eat the laddu, be happy. Offer it to Krishna and enjoy it. In this way, Robert says, right? Offer it and be happy that I had Krishna Prasad. Thank you very much, Krishna, for giving Prasad, for purifying my senses. That's the consciousness we should adapt. The reason why we go into understanding, or sometimes, let's say, becoming more technical or evaluating, is just to give a perspective to seeing things in a different way, so that we can increase our desire to surrender to Krishna. So don't go too much into the technicality. Who's really enjoying? As Prabhupada says, Prabhupada said the greatest weapon is prasad. If somebody does not want to be Krishna conscious, give them nice, sumptuous prasad. They will enjoy. So as devotees, Prabhupada said our only sense gratification is eating Krishna prasad. So that means there's sense gratification. Yeah, we're enjoying. So take prasad, enjoy, chant Hare Krishna, and in this way, focus on Krishna. I hope that shed some light on that. Right. Is that okay, Maraji?
Yeah, thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Thank
It was
you.
nice.
Wonderful. Amavati Radhika says, thank you, Prabhu, for the absolute wonderful class. Bhagavatam class is our favorite part of Saturday. Thank you. We're grateful. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. It's also my favorite. Shamananda Prasad, Hare Krishna. Thanks for sharing the Srimad Bhagavatam nectar with us, and also about Srila Prabhupada's books and how they will save the world in due course of time. We are praying for that and trying to help in our small way towards this. Yes. We have an opportunity, and that opportunity is somehow or other do something for Srila Prabhupada's movement. Do something that is adding value to his mission, to the mission of Lord Chaitanya. Mother Lash, Hare Krishna Prabhu, thanks so much for the thought-provoking Krishna Kadai. Is it that earthly plane that is the door, or specifically the Earth planet, the one that we are currently on, that is the door to Vaikunthas? So the earthly plane is, the reason why I said the earthly plane is because generally people have the concept of the earth, but the earth is actually not just necessarily a planet, but it has a plane. That's Karma Bhumi. When you come to this plane, which is the middle plane, the earthly plane, and you could say it's the Earth planet, they're interchangeable. That's where you can create activity. You can purify yourself, or you can bind yourself. The other planets, higher planets, it's ascribed, the higher planets, there's so much enjoyment, you don't think about Krishna. There's no need to think about Krishna. The lower planets, there's so much suffering, you can't think of Krishna. The earthly planets, or the earthly plane, is in between. There's suffering and happiness, like a seesaw. And in between those planes, that plane of enjoyment and suffering is very favorable for remembering Krishna. It's not too much enjoyment, not too much suffering. There's a middle medium there for us to think of Krishna. So that becomes favorable for spiritual life. Because without spiritual life, without thinking of Krishna, there's no going out. Then, for you to now completely go out of the material world, one needs to take birth in Vrindavan, in Mathura, in a spiritual environment, which is the spiritual world in the material world, and then finally go up. Now, the yogis, they have an alternative, which we discussed also in the second canto and will be expanded in the third canto. But that's a very mechanical way and very, very difficult method to escape. The easiest and general method for Vaishnavas is this way. So yes, you could say I generally talk about, because when we're covering the fifth canto, we will see the Earth planet is not just one planet. It's actually a Bhumandala. And yeah, the material, that the descriptions of the universe and like the fifth canto goes over my head. If we cannot create the atmosphere of the spiritual world through pure devotional service, if we can create the atmosphere of the spiritual world through pure devotional service on earth, then why is it not possible to create this type of atmosphere in Janaloka, Mahaloka, where saintly persons, people reside? So there are saintly people who are fully absorbed in their meditation, like Tapaloka, Mahaloka. So they focus and they, let's say, absorbed in meditation. On the Earth planet, we have the facility also to engage in devotional service. As one gets elevated to, let's say, for example, Tapaloka, where there are souls who have elevated their consciousness to such an extent that all they do is austerity the whole life. They are fully absorbed like that. And remember, these planets are higher than heavenly planets, Swargaloka. So when I spoke about heavenly planets, I'm talking about the demigods, the heavenly planets. There they don't worry about Tapa meditating on Krishna. No, that isn't grand. Tapaloka, Mahaloka, these are higher planets, up to Brahmaloka. So in those planets, they may be they're definitely great exalted souls and devotees. And they generally would be fully absorbed like that, waiting for the time when the creation is destroyed, and then the Lord takes them to their destination. But generally, most of the living entities, majority of them would go according to the activities. They would go to the Swargaloka. According to the activities, they would come back to the Earth planet and then go lower. In this way, they would cycle up and down. So yes, one can be fully absorbed in the higher planets and be Krishna conscious. But generally for the masses, because this material world, masses are prisoners. So for, there are rare souls who elevate their consciousness and then go to those levels. And then they go with, like in our case, Lord Brahma is Haridas Thakur. He's a pure devotee of the Lord. So like that, depending on the destination of Brahma, they also go. But generally, majority of the living entities in this material world, they need to create a spiritual environment on earth to be able to be absorbed. Anywhere where we create a spiritual environment, even in Bali Maharaj, lower planetary system, he's a devotee. So he's creating a spiritual environment. So in that way, wherever one goes, one can create a spiritual environment, but generally for the living entities to escape, then the Lord has a system. Bafana, so far the section read, just lift the weights of the whole universe over the shoulder. Vision of the interface between material and spiritual further elevates weight on the shoulders, both from the material stress to ecstasy of the spirit. Ahankar is made to see from phantasmagoria to spiritual reality. In other words, from material relative to spiritual soul real. Yes, that transition has to be made. Tamasoma jyotigamayo, mrityuma amritasugamayo. From going from darkness to light, from bondage to immortality. That's the goal of Krishna consciousness. And that's why whatever happens in our life, see it with the perspective that it's a transition. It's not all in all. It's not the end goal. It's a transition for the real life in the spiritual world. Ashti, thank you very much. Right. Thank you very much for everyone's feedback and comments. We will continue with the 6th chapter next week. And until then, have a wonderful Krishna conscious week. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Go Pramanande Hari Hari.